Welcome to the House of Hype podcast with your host Daniel, and Jaren's not here. Today we have very special guests, Chris and Theo from Emo Night. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Hey. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get started, I'm really bad at this, but what would you guys like to plug? Any upcoming events or anything you want people to see?
Yeah. All right, cool. I'll do it. December 4th, we're closing out the year pretty strong. We have 3 great bands, Hovercar, Pet Lizard, and Bill at the VFW. Is it on Broad and Seminole Heights? That's December 4th. And yeah, and then we just have the radio show.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's the radio show that you guys have?
Emo Night Tampa Radio. Tonight/tomorrow, which has been some confusion, but Thursday at midnight / Friday morning. 88.5
WMNF
Tampa.
Yeah. We've been this is what, episode 24, so it's like,
No.
yeah, I think it's episode 24.
I thought we just had 20.
Or maybe it's 21.
Yeah.
It's 21.
It's 20 something.
22.
It's 22. Yeah, it's 22. So yeah, it's like, what was that? 5 months in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So what made you guys want to do that, for example?
They tagged us in something, and I was like, yo, just give us a show.
Word.
That's how this guy rolls.
And I was just like, just give us a show. And they're like, hey, well, actually, matter of fact, we're doing this changeover, and there'll be some openings. If you're really interested, you should apply. And I hit him up. I was like, hey, should we do this thing? At least we should apply. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And 5 months later, here we are.
So what entails, I guess, having your own radio station there, or your own radio broadcast on WMNF?
It's just an extension of the night. The night at times, like, it gets a little bit, sing-songy, and everyone gets like real jacked up and happy and whatever. So you want to play songs that are kind of like fit the mood,
Right.
Yeah.
Where on the show, we get to play more like B-sides, some more deeper cuts. We play a lot of newer bands, regionally, nationally. Play a lot of local bands, so that's been really, really rad. It's only 2 hours, so it's just like every week we just gotta like chop it up. Like, all right, man, we have 2 hours. First hour. We start a playlist, and we kind of narrow it down until we get it into like a hour and like 45 minute, and then like we just kind of insert. We get the station, insert the commercials, all that good stuff, and then kind of rock out.
You guys kind of both like choose the songs that you want on the playlist?
Yeah, we do half and half.
We do half and half.
Pretty
That's
evenly.
cool.
Yeah, I'll start it, and then I'll send it to him, and he'll put his stuff in. And then usually Thursday night, I kind of like put the songs in, like, order that kind of like mesh the best. And then, like I said, once you get to the station, they have like the commercial to, like, you have to say station ID at this time or this commercial at this time. So we'll kind of go back and edit the playlist where fit the commercials in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, there's like...
Yeah, it's like, it's been interesting, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a learning process, obviously. I'm assuming. Yeah, that's cool.
And it's weirdly something I've wanted to do since like junior high age, and I never really talked about it too much with anyone I knew, because I was like, I'm going to be a DJ, like
right.
at the time, hip hop DJ. But yeah, like my mom took me to like the hit radio station in this is in Virginia Beach.
Is that where you're from, Virginia Beach?
That's where I grew up. I was born in Naples, then upstate New York, and then, but age like 10 to 21, I was in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
/ Norfolk at the later years. But yeah. Gosh, what were we talking about?
We were talking about you being interested in radio.
Oh yeah, so
broadcasting.
it was this whole thing. She hooked it up, which was really awesome, and it was like the pop radio. It was like, I'm the guy
like
on the radio station,
the morning zoo guy with all the sound effects.
Yeah, exactly. And then
bleeps and bloops.
she hooked it up, and he was like, "Oh, what does this kid want?" Like, but took a picture with him and blah blah blah, and checked out the studio.
Smell like cigarettes.
Yeah, but then after that, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be just a hip hop DJ. I don't need to be on the radio." But it has been something I've always been kind of into, and it's been cooler than I wanted to admit at first.
It's
the learning part of it and everything about it. Honestly.
Right.
Yeah, it's been rad.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I guess I don't really know the whole Emo Night, where that term comes from, where that name comes from. So where does that name come from exactly?
So we've been DJing as a duo for I don't know, like what, 15 years maybe longer or something like
at least, yeah.
It's been a while, and we've always been like Friday night, Saturday night party stuff, whatever. But we're both like kind of music nerds, and we've always been like, hey, hey, I'll be like, hey, listen to this band, stuff that typically we can't play out on a Friday night.
Right.
And there's been times where we used to residents at Czar, and I would be like, I'm gonna play this Promise Ring song at 12:45, and people are gonna love it. And then the floor is just like parts like the Red Sea, and everyone's just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't." I think it's fun. It's kind of dancing. And people are like, no. Yeah. So it's been always this thing. It's like, I want to do this night where we can play all these records you can't play out on a Friday night, or you can't play in a nightclub, I should say.
Right. So almost like music that to you is kind of like unique rather than what most maybe DJs would be playing that's super popular music, basically, right?
Yeah,
Is that
kind of. Kind of. But it was also like just like a lot of these bands are just like indie rock bands, or like and they border the emo line, so they're like upbeat and poppy, but it's like stuff people wouldn't dance to in a club.
Right. Right.
So the homie Tracy worked with us at Czar, and she went to First Chance Last Chance and was like trying to get us to do like a Thursday or something. And I was like, yeah, we could do DJ this Thursday night, but I was like, I really want to do this emo night party. Like, just play this just strictly emo records. And if it sucks and no one comes out, I'll never ask you to do it again. And it popped off, and here we are, 6 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for some reason, when I grew up, emo for me was Taking Back Sunday, was all that music, like screamo, that kind of stuff. But it seems like emo has like a very wide genre of
it's like there's like waves. There's waves. Like so like first wave is like Rites of Spring and Unbroken and like maybe it's like City Caterpillars, and then wave 2 is like American Football, Mineral, Knapsack, mostly like the Midwest sound.
Okay.
And then third wave is like Taking Back Sunday and Coheed and My Chem and that kind of like when it was like I guess it's like.
Which are a lot of amazing records.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. When it's like at that peak where everyone was like, oh, this is stuff, and then it went to like fourth wave, which is like the Kembe, You Blew It, and now it's like on this fifth wave, which is a little more like twinkly, jangly stuff. Yeah, a little more like math rocky.
Yeah,
interesting.
But yeah, it's like this like span of.
I understand the Kembe wave because it's like a throwback to the second wave.
Yeah, second wave. It's like the.
But
golden...
yeah, the new thing is just like any other new thing is just like a little harder to understand, but really cool. But what exactly they're referencing, and I feel like everyone in bands, you look back and you pick certain things, and then you do something new also. But
yeah, it's how it always is. It's also like cyclical. You know what I mean?
Oh
like,
yeah,
people go back to that well of what what inspired them, and then it kind of comes back around. But what hip hop would you guys consider in that emo genre?
I don't think there's any. It's weird because there's like people who are hip hop artists who are like, oh, we're like an emo act, but to me it's always been like I don't know. It's just like a weird line,
right?
And I know there's like people now that are like considered like Little Peep. I guess would have been like people consider emo.
Okay,
but he's like in a different wave, and I guess he sampled Mineral, which is super rad. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty cool, but I don't know if I don't know. I mean, people say Drake is emo.
Yeah, when it comes to like emo as like a concept versus emo as a sound,
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like rap has always been some of the most emo. If look at emo in the most positive light of like,
yeah, exactly,
honest.
Here's my feelings.
Here's my honest feelings and my honest emotions. Rap.
Emo might
always had those songs,
You could almost make the argument that emo is the modern day blues of like the 50s and 40s.
Yeah,
what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, just like
no,
the
totally,
of
because
it.
of the like, this is what I'm dealing with, and you look at during the radio show, we look up the lyrics to every song because if there's an E by it, explicit, But a lot of times there's not an E by it, and it's still explicit. Like these guys will just yell something in the background, or it'll be very clear in the lyrics. Very bad words, but you start to notice trends, and like not getting enough sleep is like a huge one. And what a human universal thing is that, and like that's a modern day blues thing. Like I'm not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, I'm overworked or I'm depressed or I'm anxious or,
I'm drinking too much because
I'm not
getting enough
exactly.
sleep.
So it's like, you start to notice it. Like you said, like, we'll make our playlist and I go through and pick my songs, whatever, and then I like go to Lyrics Genius band or their Bandcamp, whatever, and I look at the song lyrics, make sure there's no F-bombs or anything else that's gonna get us in trouble. But yeah, there's this all these bands will have like this like wave where it's like singing songs like just like I'm depressed,
right?
And I'm depressed because like I'm into the school's killing me, my parents hate me, or my relationships can't whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
My best friend moved to Chicago and now I'm alone, and so there's all this like weird thing. But then you start to notice it like little bit. I guess maybe I pay attention more because I look at the lyrics. But it is like a universal thing. Like all these bands just start to like pick apart and mention the same situations.
Almost like the same topics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the
exactly.
things, the ones you do start to notice after a while, looking at so many that they all have in common.
It's interesting because you can kind of that happens as well in like a band. Let's say, for example, Grizzly Bear or like a Radiohead, where they kind of have almost like ominous topics that you don't really understand what they're referring to, but it's almost like, oh, it's your interpretation, and then there's more on the nose things like the depression stuff and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting. It's to me, it's funny how the thing that you said about Drake, where his lyrics would probably make people think that is an emo thing, for example.
Yeah, because it is.
The despair and all that stuff
sure.
that he refers to in his songs and stuff. That's interesting. So you guys said that you met 15 years ago?
Yeah. I worked at a record store. So where Mojo is now, I think we met probably a little longer than 15, but we've been DJing for like almost 15 years now together. But I worked at this record store where Mojo is now, and
Oh yeah, it's probably been 20 years since we met.
Yeah.
Here in Tampa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I worked at this record store, and where Mojo is at the time, it was Blockbuster Music, and I just like got hired like the tail end of it being Blockbuster Music, and we'd got these repeat customers would come in, and I'd be cashiering or I'd be stocking records or whatever, and then someone would be like, hey, I like this. Do you have this record in stock, or whatever the case may be, and then you start to make friends, or like we had regulars, and Chris was a regular. I'd come in and I'd like check him out. I'm like, oh, this record's really good, or this record sucks. Don't get it. Get something else. And so he came in one day, and this is like
put it on blast.
And this is like I guess our friendship started from like he came in one day and he's like that band Air, who did like the Virgin Suicide soundtrack. So they were
done
like,
some amazing music.
Yeah, that record, the Virgin Suicide soundtrack is phenomenal. But they put this record out like, I think it's like 100,000 megahertz or something. Like it was like their follow up. And working the record store, the label would always send like extra copies. But I had a promo copy, and he came in to buy it. I was like, yo, this record sucks. Don't get it. It's terrible. I have a copy at my house. Save your $15. I will give it to you. And I lived right by the record store, so I got off work, and he's like, yeah, he worked in the mall, and he's like,
went out of his way to take money out of Air's pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moral of this story.
I mean, it was a promo copy. It says not for sale.
Only because that second record wasn't good.
So, I went home, like, literally after work, got it, and he worked in the mall, and I walked to the mall, and I was like, yo, here you go, man, like, enjoy it. And then he came in the store, like, a couple days later, I was like, yo, you're right, the record sucks.
Dang.
Yeah.
So
compared to just because they're the first record and then Virgin Suicides, masterpieces.
Yeah.
And it's a little wanky.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, you guys just figured out, oh, you DJ, I DJ as well.
No, we weren't.
No,
we weren't even DJing yet. We were just like I said, he would always come to the store.
Yeah.
And then we're like, hey, there's this record store, Vinyl Fever, you should check out, and whatever. And we became buds. And I was buying a lot of records. He was buying a lot of records, and he was in a band. And he was like, hey, man, you have all these records. You're hoarding them. You're not playing them out. He's like, do you want to play records between bands?
Right.
And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not good in front of crowds. And, like, I'm going to be nervous, whatever. And he's like, oh, no one's going to care what you play. And for, like, 2-3 weeks, I just, like, every day I come home from work and, like, make this playlist and play it out. And then my mom comes out. Like, my mom shows up to this event. I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm so proud of you. And it's like, she's taking, like, typical mom, like, front of the stage, like I'm on stage, it's like taking photos. I'm like, you're embarrassing me for my friends.
It was an awesome debut.
Yeah.
Where was it at?
It was at the old Orpheum.
Orpheum, yeah. Orpheum gave us our start.
Oh shit!
OG
yeah,
Orpheum.
That one.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The Crate Brothers started at Orpheum for sure.
Yeah, and it was and came. And I was terrible. I was like so nervous that I was like letting songs play through, wrong pitch, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so. He's like, dude, no one cares. Like nobody cares. Like you're playing good stuff, nobody cares. And then someone asked him to do like an art show opening. He's like, hey, do you want to sing with me? And I was like, I mean, I guess. Like, it's fun. And I was like, I don't know. He's like, they're going to give us money. And I was like, okay, cool. They're gonna give us money. I'll definitely do it. Yeah. And that's how it kind of started.
Well, the whole Crate Brothers thing to me was the fact that, because I was like DJing a little bit in high school. And then even before I moved here, still in Virginia, I was like, I'm going to make beats. Now I'm not a DJ anymore. I'm just going to make beats. I didn't really have the equipment, but I was like, I'm going to make beats. And then I came here and was still in the making beats thing. I met Uncle Shredded Wheat, who's a huge Tampa guy, who's doing a show here soon. But anyways, he introduced me to the whole hip-hop crowd, and he made beats. And I was like, I'm just the beat guy. But so I would buy a lot of records based on that, just weird records to sample.
Right.
Soul records, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't really have a lot of, the only singles I had were from high school, starting in like 93, just rap stuff. And then and then weird rock stuff and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, between the two of us, we have enough. Neither one of us could really DJ because it was the vinyl days still.
Right.
It was like neither one of us could really DJ on our own. We don't have the crates, but between the two of us, we have the crates to do a night.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that people that are not in that world even understand. Like what you just mentioned about not having enough actual vinyl.
If you don't have it, you don't have it. That's
right.
it. That's your only option.
Because today people are, using Spotify, playlists or whatever to just play it through their fucking computer or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's been nights at Emo Night where someone like comes up and like, hey, can you play this, band from Ohio? Cool, and then just get on Spotify and play it, and you're like, holy shit, I just played this band I've never heard of because some kid requested it, just on the spot. But before, like, even like on a Friday night when we were DJing Czar for every Friday, we were multiple, like two crates apiece, like jack full of records, like nonstop for 5 hours. So we had like 50, 60 hours worth of music for 5 hours. But then someone would be like, hey, do you have this Debbie Deb single? And you're like, cool. Yeah, at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Like at home, have it at home.
How was that process of coming up with what you were going to play? I mean, that must have taken you guys a long time. Like that night, for example, you would go, okay, well, I want to bring these records with me, or would you just bring all the stuff that you had? I
would bring a lot of stuff that was like popular at the time, like this, like the hip hop singles. So I definitely have like a single crate, and there are songs that that you would play that's gonna blow the roof off. So it's like the crate savers.
Right.
Like, all right, I'm gonna play this Kid Sister song. People are gonna lose their shit. I'm gonna play this Kanye Gold Digger. People are gonna lose their mind. Like there's a certain stuff you knew, like, no matter how bad the night was going, no one could be dancing. You drop that song, and you get everyone back.
Right.
So that was like always in the back of the crate, like this crate saver thing. But then like we were playing a lot of like Block Party and like Tigray and Hot Chips. We were playing a lot of like indie dance stuff. That was like those Blockhouse days. A lot of DFA.
Yeah.
So, and then as the night progressed, you'd go from like, yeahs into like maybe TV on the radio, and then progressively get into like MOP and Kanye, and then you start playing like, I had this like really big time where I was like really invested in like the Baltimore club scene. I was just like buying all these like Baltimore club records. So I'd always like, I'm going to do a Baltimore club set. And sometimes people are like, yes, this is the greatest. And I'm like, this sucks.
You have to really know.
Yeah, you'd have to be like,
what you're in for.
What is that? What does that entail, the Baltimore club scene?
It's like really, it's kind of hard to explain.
It's super fast.
It's super fast. And they would take like just like top 40 songs and maybe like remix them. But super fast, but also like incorporate gunshots and like sound effects.
Okay.
But like where you would kind of like dance like,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good example. So MIA Paper Planes was like a giant.
Because Diplo.
Diplo was like really
guy.
So Diplo was a Baltimore club guy as well. So he was like living in Philly, part of this crew Holotronics, and they were like doing this party called White I want to say it was white tee, white belts, where they'd be like straight up gully hip hop shit and indie rock stuff. So you'd go there and you'd hear like Young Bloods, but then you'd also hear like, Robin. So like just like mix it.
But this was early. Like what year would you say? Like
this is like early 2000s.
Yeah, like early.
Yeah,
2000s,
yeah, early
like
2000s. Like, so like this whole Be More thing. I'll send you stuff when I get home, but it's like, just like this whole scene. It's like it's still like a giant thing in Baltimore right now. And then Jersey has like a spinoff. It's the Jersey Club.
Jersey Club.
Yeah, it's like the same thing, a little different. And now Memphis has like a kind of a similar
Tampa
thing.
honestly has a version. It's
Yeah.
like I don't even know like the name of it, but it's like it's all
like,
fast.
It's like juke.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like juke.
It's
Tampa
like
juke.
whatever the
Like there's like a genre of music coming from here.
Yeah.
That's
Really?
like very regional and known, and it's just like a lot of the same. It's like that Chub Rock sample or the It Takes Two sample sped up. It's like the same break, and then there's like of course dances that go with it and stuff, and it's like really fast.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say with the Be More stuff is an extension of DC Go-Go,
Right.
which from the 80s into the 90s, which is another very regional thing, and it's very organic too. It's all live drums.
Yeah, like this band Rare Essence. It's like I guess they would be like the probably like the pinnacle.
Yeah.
DC. They're like
Or the butt.
EU.
The butt, yeah.
Yeah, EU.
But
like
that's
Rare
a go-go song.
Yeah, Rare Essence is probably like the most
They're the most
known.
famous,
If there's a go-go Mount Rushmore, they'd be on it.
Junkyard
Right.
Band.
Yeah, Junkyard
Before
Band.
that.
Yeah, but they would take a top 40 song and play it out with like bongos and
Nasty percussion.
yeah, nasty percussion, horns and stuff.
Yeah.
And it'd be like a 3-minute like top song you hear on the radio, and they'd make it like an 8-minute song with like this giant breakdown and people start dancing. It's so insane.
And it's not like a show, it's a party. Like that's the party. That's
Right.
the DJ at the party. Is like these bands, and they would play. That's why it never got to a certain level, because it's 90% covers.
Yeah.
Okay. I see. Okay.
Yeah, but it's also like this like super organic. I went to visit a high school buddy, and he was going to Howard in DC, and one year I went and I went to it was like someone's backyard. Just he's like, hey, this band's playing, and it's just like wall to wall people in here, but everyone's like dancing in unison, and it was just amazing. It's like, what is it? He's like, oh, it's DC Go-Go.
Like nasty musicians too. A lot of church dudes.
Yeah.
Church
ripping.
people. Just church chops, as they say.
Wow.
Yeah, killing
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's so.
And they just were playing that genre of music the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh, it's this go-go. And he's like, what? Oh my God, this is amazing. And I come back to Tampa, it's like, go-go. I'm like, no one cares.
And like there's always an MC, and there's like shout outs are a huge thing. There's like different crews.
Yeah.
Everyone will, dress the same, and they'll be like, shout out, blah, blah, blah. And it's cool. Like it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that there's such a I've never heard about any of this. I've never heard about any of this, and it's blowing my mind. There is something comparable in like bands and stuff like that, like rock music or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I don't. Did you guys watch the evolution of hip hop at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've seen it. I think I saw all of them.
Yeah, I feel like what you guys just told me right now could easily be a documentary that I would love to watch.
Oh man, I think about dream documentaries. Being from Virginia Beach, I'm like, I just need to get in touch with Pharrell, and he'll like fund it. 'Cause I'm surprised he hasn't done a DC, because we were close enough, and then we're talking Pharrell, Timbaland,
Right.
especially. I could even say like, there were people from DC, like we knew about Go-Go in Virginia Beach, and it's such a specific sound. There was a time when I think people thought I was going to blow up, because it was like, me and Theo said the couple songs, but there's a few songs that were pretty big hits that incorporated that drum pattern.
Right.
Well, I think the biggest hit was probably The Butt.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there was even, I can't even think, but there was like some more almost like an R&B with singing songs that had like the go-go beat. Kid and Play.
Oh yeah.
Kid and Play leaned heavily on the go-go stuff. But anywho's, the influence that it had on the Neptunes, which was like a huge thing. But yeah, go-go itself stays regional. There was an MTV even mini it was a special years ago, and it was just about regional. It was so old that it was about ska was one of them. It was before Smash Mouth. It was like right before Smash Mouth, and it was like, there's a scene in Long Beach,
So it's like,
and it was like it was
No
cut
Doubt.
up into different parts. Yeah,
It's like
maybe No Doubt.
Orange County, like
Maybe
that.
like, I mean, No Doubt wasn't out yet, but it was like right before No Doubt. Yeah, it was Orange County. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did a few different places, and they did Go Go, and they did ska, and whatever else that I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know if there is that happening right now. Like, I know in Australia there was that psych rock scene that exploded with like Unknown Immortal Orchestra, Tame Impala, Pond, those bands, but I don't know if anything is happening right now.
No, even like the grunge thing. Like, there's not. Yeah,
Right.
where's the hot city right now?
I don't-
Or hot region. Yeah.
I don't know if the internet has kind of dissipated that, because
for
now
sure.
it's coming from everywhere,
That
but
makes sense.
it's like Tame Impala was around, or rather they broke through in the early, maybe like mid 2000s, I think,
Yeah.
2010 or whatever. And yeah, I just don't know now. I mean, there has to be something like what you guys are referring to. You guys said that in Tampa right now, there's kind of a genre that is home to Tampa.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know very little about, even living places where people played that music and enjoyed it. I still know very little about it, but just from like things that I follow. But what I hear of it, reminds me of Jersey Club more than anything, honestly.
Yeah.
More directly. But it's just like, or even, like drum and bass is like, early drum, it was like three different breaks.
Right.
It was just three different breaks. And all these songs, it's kind of like that, where it's just one of those genres where it's like,
Like
what can you do with this?
Yeah, drum and
break?
bass, like jungle type.
Yeah. No, my
Breakdown.
sister, actually, my brother-in-law and sister. Well, my brother-in-law was a DJ that played drum and bass in Miami, and my sister loved drum and bass. Like, she would go to all the concerts and stuff like that. She knew a bunch of DJs and stuff. But yeah, I remember that as a kid, her listening to all that stuff when it was out. And to be honest, I didn't like it.
I know.
I never liked a genre of music that just did the same thing every song. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
and
hard
that's
for me to get into.
Well, that's why they stay regional and underground, is because you can't sell records.
Right.
You can't sell LPs of that. And it's like I read this little book about how disco almost ruined, almost bankrupted the whole record industry, not just certain labels, because they were all doing it.
Right.
And the bottom line is they all pressed up too many LPs of dance music that is only enjoyed in the club. And then, it's a craze. So a lot of it ended up not being good at all.
Right.
But even the good stuff, it's like, how much do
it
you want to
becomes
listen to that
generic.
at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much
Yeah.
do you want to sit
Yeah.
around and listen to this
Yeah.
music at home? Yeah, right.
There's a lot of that right now too. I mean, I feel like mainstream pop music has a lot of generic stuff, and not to say that, I'm not one to say that they're not talented or anything like that. It's just not my forte. But
Yeah.
Right.
there's definitely a sound. You know what I mean? And
Well, that's what I think happened with that third wave in emo. It was just like certain bands came out and everyone's like, okay, cool. For one Taking Back Sunday, there's like 30 copies.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
You know,
Because
now-
the most money was involved in that.
Yeah, so they all have like, Blood Red September or some like play on the name, and it's like, but they all just fit the same, the brooding guy, lead singer, with no shirt on, like the heavy set bassist,
The funny guy.
the funny guy, the wacky dude. There's always this weird.
there's like an equation to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And if you look at it, like every band's, like you look at their press photos, they're like sitting on a couch in a field, and the other guy's like, we're sitting on a couch next to the field, but we're in a brook, so we're slightly different. We're still
Yeah.
as cool, but everything started like becoming just like this one blob where it was just like everyone sounds the same, everyone looks the same, and it's just like, all right, cool. And I think that's what potentially, I think that's what ended up just like became like gave emo like a bad rap. It's like
Right.
everything sucks. Everything's starting to
Well, it
be
became pop music.
it became pop music, but everything just became like selling records as opposed to like putting out good records.
Being original and it coming from a place of I want to be creative, not I'm just trying to make money off.
Right.
Of it. Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is that I feel like people that are musicians find themselves going, well, this is what's working right now, and I don't want to work a day job anymore, so I'm just gonna try and do what other people are doing right now and see
Yeah.
if it works out for me. You know what I mean?
I totally
Yeah.
get it, man. At the end of the
can
day,
You
gotta
get
be-
it more and more every day.
yeah, I totally get it.
I'm not gonna get in the way of your money.
Yeah,
Just wait till you get to that point.
Just like I just hope it works for you. Like, don't do it and it not work, that's a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's tons of artists that do that, and you know, they're one hit wonders or they never go anywhere or whatever, and that's why I don't know. I don't want to sit on my high horse here, so I'm not gonna. I just try and write stuff that I like. And that's
yeah. I mean, that's the that's
what it should be about
at the end of the day. Yeah.
Ultimately, I feel like people they recognize that too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's how. And obviously, we're no one, we're nobody. It's we're a fucking Tampa band, but. It's like it's like as long as even the people here, and there is something special here. I feel. We're from Miami.
We talk about this all the time. Yeah.
It's a music city. I mean,
actually, let me ask you about that then, because you guys have been here for a bit. So how have you seen a noticeable change in the scene at all?
Seen waves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super waves. I think right now, I mean, for me personally, I think especially like in the indie rock emo scene, like. This is like some of our best bands.
Right.
Like these bands are just come out crushing it, putting in work, playing like all the time. I just think this is like probably like I said, it's probably for me, it's probably close to the peak that we've gotten, like.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, because people will be like, hey, put me on some bands. And I'm like, oh, instead of like, listen to this band, I'm like, these are all these Tampa bands that I like.
Right.
Like, listen to these dudes.
Right.
Listen to this band, listen to this band. And people like, especially like my friends who live, aren't in Florida, will be like, they're like, oh, this is a band I think you should check out. And I'm like, no, okay, I'll listen to this band, but you listen to this band.
Right.
Or here's this. So I think that's where, especially with the radio show, is like, this is the outlet for us to play, these bands.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it's crazy. In Miami, when we were there originally, I don't know, we could be wrong, but I felt like there was only like hard rock bands, like screamo bands, very little indie, very little like I guess what you would call us like psychedelic rock or whatever. And then it wasn't until we moved here that we noticed that there was like this diverse grouping of different artists and different genres and stuff. It wasn't just screamo or hard rock. It was like a ton of different musicians, and it was blown away. And it's taken me a few years now to even still, I meet new bands all the fucking time, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's great.
Yeah, I was, coming from Virginia Beach, which obviously, like I, mentioned and rep before, has a lot of talented people, but not a scene, not like any scene that's in place. And when I made the decision to move here, it was go to USF, and so I was born in Naples. My cousins are out this way, and
that's why you ended up coming here, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. My cousins went to USF, and then I was like, sure. I was kind of messing around, dropping out of things.
Having a good time.
Yeah, I was like, anyways. But I was just like, oh man, music scene, like hip hop, and that's what I was into at the time. And it was just like, all I could think of was like Two Live Crew. No disrespect at all.
Disrespect, bro. Do it.
No. That younger me would have been like, yeah, stuff's dumb, but like, Luke's the production and the Miami sound and all that stuff. But what their legacy. But anyways,
right.
This is what I thought of, because I only could think of Miami. Miami, especially at that time, had a bigger footprint as far as like, if you don't live in Florida anymore, this is what you're gonna hear about. This is the sound you're gonna know about.
Right, that 80s like 808 shit.
Yeah. That was my only reference, and I was like, well, Tampa's not that far. And I was, blown away, like you said. Moved here in 98, and the hip hop scene, and then the rock scene, and just the relative organization of it, because Virginia Beach, in a lot of ways, is like really oppressive. It's an industrial military complex. Also, Pat Robertson has big sway. CBN / the university that he has is right there, and it has, at least back then, it had a lot of effect on the culture. Probably not in a good way, but
interesting.
Depending on your opinion of Pat Robertson.
I don't know who that is. So
700 Club. Like it was like he has a big Christian network.
Really?
He ran for president.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
I
it's
see.
a conservative.
Old white dude.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
with a lot of money.
Who has a lot of sway, and then the industrial military thing, which honestly, I have more of a positive view of than even care to admit, just because of my friends and my friends' parents and blah blah blah.
Right.
But the big thing was like it was like a tourist like from up north. It was like the first beach after Maryland, coming from New York or northern New York, blah blah blah, on the East Coast. And so this at the Strip, which was the only party area. There's this whole like tour. The city wanted the tourists to enjoy themselves and not be scared of the locals.
Right.
But the locals that was our Ybor, and it wasn't Ybor at all, but it was our equivalent. And the only equivalent, it was like there was one big club kind of away from it, and then little beach bars. So they were very oppressive in that specific area. They did not want locals, and there was a race thing, but also just locals in general.
Right.
Any ilk. They didn't want you there scaring the tourists in any way or bothering the tourists.
Right.
Like just stay away from the best, funnest part of your
Right,
city.
right,
Like it's this whole weird thing. But so coming here, so that just meant like there weren't shows on the Strip. In our Ybor, there were no shows. Like, there was no venues that could have shows. There was like one and it got shut down, like blah blah blah.
So yeah, that's kind of crazy to me to think that.
And it's like that a lot of places.
Well, that makes sense though too. Is like if the people there are very let's say like constraining against new things coming in, that would make sense that there would be no scene.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the avenue for?
I mean,
it?
this is like one of the most creative places on earth.
Right.
I'll rep that forever. But I think maybe because of that, because of the constraints.
Right.
And it's like these people just like they don't even have time to play out. They can't play out anywhere. They're just creating stuff all the time.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. But coming here, the whole point is coming here. I was like, wow, like this place has a scene that is structured, and like no matter what you're into, you can find a place to, put it out, play it out.
Yeah. There's definitely like that was another thing that I noticed too coming here was the amount of venues that it had and stuff. And yeah, it's crazy to me. It's like I can only think of a few down in Miami, for example, now. And just literally just had this conversation with a band from there saying that they just don't feel like people care down there.
Right.
Like and you can maybe make the same argument here. I don't know. I think there's more of a thriving scene. There's more of a community. And from what I've heard people talk about that are the bigger, people that are successful, they always say it starts out with a community of artists. That's where it begins. And then that's how you get your branches of artists and successful people that make it out of it. But
and I think the good thing about Tampa is these artists and these bands are not afraid to play on a different bill.
Right.
So people are like, yo, you have a slot for me? I'll play.
Yeah.
Like they don't care. So it's like rad. You'll go see a show and there might be a surf rock band or someone like, a little more mathy. And then there's a straight peanut butter jelly emo band, like A to B, this is what we are. And then maybe followed by a singer-songwriter. But the crowds mesh, everyone hangs out, everyone supports each other, which I think is like super rad.
Yeah, like for example, like literally our bill, for example, like the Youth Antics and us, like the Youth Antics are more on the indie poppy side than we are. Like we're more, I don't know, aggressive is the right word, but punk maybe. And it was cool. Like I like those guys. They're fucking nice as hell.
Yeah, they're rad. Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, see, like when I was booking the show, like I just like, oh, these are two bands that I like.
Right.
Let's put them together. And we've been pretty lucky that no one's been like, oh, I don't want to play with that band.
Right.
Everyone's just like, oh, cool, those guys are rad.
I don't know of any of that.
That's true.
Yeah, no one's ever like, oh,
yeah, you asked me that. I was like, fun. That was such a funny question. I was like, are there bands that don't like each other here?
Yeah. I asked you, you're like, oh, it's like, is that cool? Like, you guys cool with those guys? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Because it's like, I don't want to like make anyone feel uncomfortable because I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but it's also just like, we've been pretty lucky. Like, it's like, hey, this band's playing. You guys share the bill, and they're like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Right.
So it's been super rad in that aspect that no one's given us any feedback. Everyone's been super, supportive of whoever they play with. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I went to an Emo Night was at the Bricks before COVID and all that stuff. And it was really cool, man. And I don't think I'd actually ever been to the Bricks before, which is funny. But yeah, it was really neat and just like the environment and yeah, you can just tell people there just to enjoy music, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you guys cultivate that audience?
Man, it's a good question. I think it's
I think they do all the work.
yeah. A lot of times it's like, like in the end of the day, it's just us two playing stuff that we like, playing bands that we like, and people come out, and they just happen to like, I think it's just like this lane that we're in. People are like, oh, it's a safe space. I feel comfortable here. The music's good. We take requests, so people like, and there's bands that I don't like. Like I'm like, but people say, hey, play this. I'm like, cool, you're here. Like it's gonna make your night better.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I not listen to it at my house. Like on the way home, this is not on my Spotify, but like you're here. It's the least I can do.
Right, I'm gonna make your time a
Yeah,
little bit more
yeah.
fun. Yeah,
Because it's like at the end of the day, like you want that person to tell their friends like, oh, I went out and the DJ played whatever, and it made my night better, or that person's gonna be like, oh, I had a really fun time,
Right.
and then next week, the next month they're gonna bring another friend, or they're gonna follow you on Instagram and repost your stuff, or whatever the thing is. But at the end of the day, it's like you want someone to have a good time.
Yeah.
You want someone to be like, hey, I had a really great time.
it's a party.
It's a party.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a fucking party. Yeah.
End of the day, it's a party.
Yeah.
And I think that's been our biggest thing is just like create a safe space, make sure everyone feels comfortable, and then just everyone have a good time.
Yeah. No, it is definitely the environment that I felt, for example, where, it was just everyone's just chilling, drinking, it like, obviously like meeting people, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, and also I can tell that there's a lot of regulars too, people that come, every time and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Which is really cool.
People who come out, who's been to every night, who's bought every shirt we put out. There's 3 people other than myself with the Emo Night tattoo.
Right.
Like it still blows
That's
my
so
mind.
That's
Cool.
4 total people.
That's
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it's 4. It's 4 of us, but
That's
still,
so cool.
it's like, yeah. This one guy's like, hey, can I get would you mind if I get an Emo Night tattoo? And I was like, do you mind that you're getting this? Like,
Right.
He's like, yeah, I'll get it. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, and this girl got one. She's like, hey, can I get it? I was like, yeah, do whatever you want. If you want to brand yourself, I'm supporting you 1,000%.
We will not tax you.
Yeah. And then it's like,
Copyrighted.
I was like, yo,
Once a year, we send you a bill.
yeah. And it's like, all right, you got an Emo Night tattoo. The least I can do is, I'll give you a free shirt. Like every time we do a shirt drop, I'm like, yo,
Oh, that's cool.
I'll give you a shirt. Like I drew that logo on a napkin at New World.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like we were coming up to our first anniversary, and I was meeting with PBR about sponsorship, and Seamus who was a PBR rep at the time, he was like, hey, do you have a logo? And I was just like, no. He's like, why don't you have a logo? I was like, I don't know, it's never been like a thing. It's just always been a party to us. It's like, It's been this thing. And he's like, do you have merch? And I was like, no. He's like, wait, you don't have any of this stuff. And I was like, so I hit him up like, we don't have shirts.
We got shirts now.
Yeah, $20. Yeah, so he's like, I need a logo. So I like sketched up this record because we were still playing a lot of records at the time. And I sent to him. He's like, yeah, it's cool. And then we have a friend, Mike Houlihan, who lives in Dallas, who's a graphic designer. I hit him up and I was like, hey man, I drew this logo for this thing we're doing. I don't know Photoshop. I'm not a graphic designer. Like, this way can you help me out? Like, clean it up. And he must have sent me like 30 renditions.
Oh, really?
Different fonts, different angles, the record out of the sleeve, record 75%, like everything he could cover. He like squiggly lines, burnt ends. Like,
Did you do a squiggly one?
yeah, like
Revisit that.
he did like a dog-eared record, like everything you could think of that come along with a record.
Right.
He covered, and we were like, this one looks cool. Like, let's just do it. And yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, because it looks cool as shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
The logo's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's fucking rad. When did you guys start? So when you guys first started doing it, did you guys have bands performing off the bat, or did that come later?
No. We went like a year without. No, 2 years. Because the first.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because it was like the first 2 years were at First Chance.
Yeah.
So I've been to First Chance in Ybor. Super rad bar. That's where they were like, the homie Tracy was like, hey, I'm running this place now. I want you to DJ here. Small bar inside, has a patio. Super rad space. If you're in Ybor, you can definitely check it out. But the space in the backyard, it's some tables, open air, super rad. But there's a small stage. Like, we can't fit a band on
Very
there.
small.
Yeah, super small. Like if it's me, him, and our equipment, and like two other people, it's like you're kind of like touching each other. So it was like the first year, it was just like us DJing, and then we'd have our friends come out like, hey, play your favorite records out, and they'd come out, bring their friend, bring their records, and they'd play. And then we did Tanner Jones from You Blew It for our first anniversary. He guest DJ'd. And then our second year, we got Dikembe to play, the Courtyard. And it was just a lot of like telling First Chance, like, listen, we'll help pay for the bands. Like, we just want to, we want a band to play.
Right.
And like, it's so small. I'm like, yeah, we get it. It's really tiny. We can make it work. We'll move instead of us being on the stage, we'll put our equipment to the left. We'll do whatever we need to do to make this work. We can move tables, anything. And they're like, all right, cool. Like, we'll just give it a shot. So we had Dikembe play, and it was like packed.
Just the drummer was on the stage.
Oh, yeah, wow. That's how little the stage is. Yeah,
it's
just
perfect for a drum set.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And everyone else just kind of like stood in front of the stage and played. And then, we did one more show after that. And it just became the thing. It's like, where it's like, we did Blacksmith and Sherwood was like the next show we did. And it was just like I said, it's such a small space for a band. And then you have two bands with all their equipment. It's like moving stuff around. It wasn't like the ideal situation of bands.
Right.
And then it got to the point where like we just kind of outgrew the space. Like we were packing the night out. And like I said, it's not it's a good sized bar, but it's not as big as a Bricks.
Right.
So it came to a point like after like 2 years, 2.5 years, we were like, hey, we're outgrowing the space. Maybe we should look into. And then Tracy had left First Chance to go to the Bricks, and she's like,
perfect, basically.
yeah, and she was just like, listen, if you guys want to move here. We'll let you we'll give you the same exact deal you have at First Chance, like the first Saturday of the month. It's free. You do all the promo. We'll support you every way possible. But now you have a stage, and there's, you can have bands, and you have bands playing inside, and you're going to do art shows. You can do arts. So so after like 2.5 years at First Chance, we moved to the Bricks, and we were there until, February 2020 when COVID hit, and we just kind of shut it down. Yeah,
because it was basically there for a while, right?
Yeah, for like almost 3.5 years.
Wow, damn.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. No, that's how I kind of came to know of you guys. Was I don't remember if it was I saw a band that I knew. I went to one too, but even before going to the actual thing, I don't remember how I found it, but I just remember going and being like, holy shit, I want to be a part of this at some point.
That's
so
awesome.
Thank you guys for hooking us up like that.
Yeah,
it was
for sure,
such
man.
a great night. But so what's the idea now? So you guys have now done the Bricks, you've done the Hub. You just did, was it Hooch and Hive?
No, we did Crowbar first.
Crowbar.
Yeah, we did Crowbar and then the Hub. And then we just did the Bricks, and then we're going to do the VFW.
VFW, right.
And take it to the heights.
Yeah, take it to the heights in December. And then, I don't know if we're going to do it in January, because it's like, we always do it on the first Saturday of the month. Mm-hmm. The first Saturday happens to be like New Year's Day.
Right.
So it's always just like...
Hangover
days, and like, I might be out of town, and it's just like easier. Like, we made a mistake when you're doing like a Emo Night on the 4th of July.
How'd that go?
Not well. And we should have known, because we back at Czar, that one fateful 4th of July, our big night happened. I think it was like the only time it happened. On the 4th of July, and it was like the worst one ever. We felt terrible. No one came out.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
Yes, we're like, oh, people are gonna come out 4th of July. Yeah, people don't, like, watch fireworks from them, whatever.
Right.
They're asleep by the time the fireworks.
Yeah, people have been drinking.
Come on,
people have been like hanging out all day long, drinking and stuff, and by 10 o'clock. But we made that mistake. It's like we did it 4th of July one, and no one came out. I mean, people came out, but it was not like a regular night.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't packed, basically.
Yeah, and we're kind of looking at each other like, man, this, like maybe next holiday we think about it before we do it.
Right.
So we had talked about, and we have a show in January with this band 9 from Richmond, January 17th. It's a Monday. So we're doing that. So maybe we'll do incorporate like an Emo Night after party thing there. So it's going to be 9 and playing at Loser at Hooch and Hive.
You guys should check them out.
Yeah, they're super rad.
It's like a Dinosaur Jr. almost.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're super rad. And they hit us up. That's the best thing about the night is all these bands from, around the country.
Yeah, they hit you guys up.
Hit us up like, hey, we're coming through town. We spoke to, XYZ band. They told us to reach out to you. Or someone hit us up recently, and they were like, hey, we're from New Mexico.
Oh.
We're doing like a Southeast tour in the spring. Someone on Reddit was like, hey, hit up Emo Night Tampa.
Damn.
And I'm not a Reddit guy. So I'm like, oh my God, so crazy. And then recently someone else hit us up, was like, yeah, someone on the Tampa St. Pete DIY boards mentioned we should hit you up. And I was like, I didn't even know that's a thing. Like,
yeah, that is. Yeah, I'm on that.
yeah.
bad
So
boy.
someone was like, hey, hit up Emo Night Tampa. They'll help you out. They always help everybody out. So it's like, it's rad that we have this like, what's the word I'm looking for? That people like look at us like,
yeah, that
the helpful guys. Like we're
right. You have that not repertoire. Fuck me.
I guess reputation.
Reputation.
There,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Reputation of like,
word in the
of
fucking...
like, we're willing to help
I
out.
hesitate to say
You know,
it,
and even if there's
reputation,
been
for
bands who have like emailed us like, hey, I want to play Emo Night. We're from this one band from Charlotte, and I feel really bad because like the guy was like super nice, wrote this long email, was like, I love everything you do, your promo's really rad, I look at your party photos every time, and I follow you from afar. My band's playing, we're going to this Florida tour. And I was like, oh cool man, send me your stuff. And he sent me the stuff, and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst shit ever. Like I felt so bad.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, hey man, like I don't think you're fit for our night, but here's like 36 different people you should email.
Right.
And if they can't help you out, circle back with me, and I'll see if I can't put in a word for you. But it's like, here's these venues that you might fit in. Like hit up Pegasus or Brass Mug, or here's this other promoter.
Hey.
Here's all these other people that I think that your sound might fit better into.
Right.
Because I don't want to be like, oh, your band sucks.
Yeah,
Leave me
yeah,
alone.
yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm not into you guys, but I'm sure that obviously you're a band. You have a following. People are into you guys. So let me help you out. Like,
Hey,
Clearly
we've
you're
gotten
doing
we've gotten that shit too, bro. So honestly, like no one should ever take that shit personally, because it's like, it's gonna happen, dude. It's just like part of the game, dude. You're gonna get rejected, and like you guys are trying to cultivate a sound. You're trying to cultivate a fucking, make sure. Oh, we're gonna bring bands that we feel like people are gonna enjoy for the night.
Yeah. Because that's like, end of the day is like, I want it to be like, as I think as the night has grown, we've kind of like stepped out from like the black and white emo band stuff. Like, we're doing like more like, indie pop stuff, or maybe like dream pop, but it's all these bands that we like
Right.
that kind of fit underneath this umbrella.
Yeah.
And so at some point it's like, and even on the radio stuff, it's like we're playing other bands that aren't maybe like quote unquote you consider emo.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
almost want to do an episode, and I haven't even talked about this yet, but an Is It Emo episode.
Yeah.
That's
'Cause
good.
it's like-
That's a
yeah,
good
'cause
idea. Yeah.
Because we played like Death Cab, and I consider some Death Cab songs to definitely be emo, but at their legacy, they are like the indie band.
Yeah.
Right.
People are
Right.
gonna call them indie more than they're gonna call them emo.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
it's
when I think Death Cab for Cutie, I'm thinking that's an indie
indie,
band.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where like we've played stuff out at Emo Night, and someone's like, "Oh, it's not an emo band." It's like, shut up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Like the emo police?
Yeah.
It's like, well, like their first record can be, but you're not playing that first record. It's like, yo, cool, man.
Right.
I'm glad you're here to, let me know.
Yeah, to let me know. Yeah,
Tell
thanks,
me
bro.
I appreciate
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Thanks
because
thanks for coming out.
honestly, I like that idea of we're cultivating the music for the night for you guys, and there's not a specific genre we're gonna play, because you guys were playing hip hop that night too, for example, when we were there, at least from what I remember. So it's like, were you guys not? I feel like I remember some hip hop being played
Oh.
Maybe we had a guest, because like that's another thing too. Is
Yeah.
like a lot of
at the one that
at the Bricks.
no, at the hub one.
The Hub one?
Yeah, I could have sworn. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Could have
I
been
coulda
coming from outside.
no, no, definitely not there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
maybe it was like the jukebox at the hub.
Yeah.
maybe.
Before.
I don't know.
But I know
Anyways.
what was I gonna say? Yeah, I know what I was
We
gonna say.
well, that's the thing. Like, it brings up an interesting point, because we're like hip hop dudes. I mean, I've described myself that way with this guy.
Yeah.
His backpack, like the late '90s, the early 2000s,
Oh, yeah.
very specific
That was
side of hip hop collection is not to be rivaled. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I was like super backpacking, and like you can tell me shit. I mean, like it's weird because like at that time for me personally, it was like the whole backpack. But then I was like listening to I was like, listening to like the Smiths a lot and the Cure, but stuff like was like not. People were like, oh, it's not cool. So
Shit.
yeah, so
Shit.
I was listening to all this stuff outside of like in my house. Like I was listening to all this sad guy stuff or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, only in your house. Right?
Yeah, only my house, because it's like, oh yeah, I love this, whatever. And
Or the
like,
car, but with the windows up.
Yeah. Like, oh, it's terrible. So it's like this, like you had this facade, like, hey, I'm listening to like EPMD, and I'm super into like Def Jux and, you know, Cannibal Ox or whatever. But then at your home, you're like, yeah, I'm listening to that stuff, but I'm also listening to like, you know, the Smiths, and I'm also listening to like Bajas and whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like outside is like, I wasn't like, at least in like my circle, it wasn't like, you just like, most of my friends were like hip hop only.
Yeah, right.
So it was like, I'd bring them to shows, and so my dude Gardy, who I also met at the record store, was a guy from Miami, like straight hip hop dude, like construction Timbs, oversized cargo pants. Like you couldn't, like he looked like a 90s, like when you would open the Source, the 90s rap dude. Like he looked like a 90s rap
DOS
guy.
Effects DJ.
Yeah, he had dreads and always, one of the best dudes I've ever met in my life. Met him at the record store, like a bunch of this. We listened to the same hip hop. He was always open minded. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go see this band Owls playing the Orpheum. You want to go? I'll go. And then I'm like, I'm in the crowd, but I'm at the back of the crowd, and he's like on a stool against the wall sleeping. But this is like always. I take him I took him to see The Faint. He's in the back sleeping.
That's amazing.
I took him to see, you know, like Harmar Superstar.
He's sleeping. The whole time.
And then
that Faint show at the Orpheum, like I wasn't there, but I mean it's the Faint, and in whatever year.
It was like when Blank Wave Arcade came out, so everyone's like sweaty. It's like
it was like as wild as the Orpheum. Probably.
Yeah, it was like peak of like white studded belts and like that whole like, it was like the scene, you know.
Whatever the Faint genre is, you.
Yeah, wow. And this guy is there, and he's like wearing like a giant oversized like FUBU shirt, and he's got, you know, dreads, and he, like I said, like camouflage cargo pants, 6-inch, you know, construction Timbs on, and he's sleeping. But then the best part, like after the show, he goes to the merch table, he buys the shirt, he buys the record, he daps at the band like, yo, you fucking killed it.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like,
you didn't even watch
you were asleep. He's like, no. I was like, my eyes are closed. I was like, all right. But yeah, he'd buy all the records. He'd buy all the, you know, he'd buy the biggest like Faint shirt with like a, you know, a X large, and he's like, I'll make it work. Yeah. You know, I'll do the shirt up and I'll make the shirt fit and it'll be tight and whatever. But yeah, he would always support all the bands, but he was just like, this thing is, he was like this sort of hip hop dude, and he'd just come out and sleep all the shows.
That's so funny.
That's the best. Yeah.
I don't even, how could you even fall asleep with music that loud?
I wish I knew.
Owls is one thing, but Faint.
Yeah. Owls is one thing, but you have the Faint, and people are like dancing, it's like hot and sweaty, and a man's out there on a bar stool, not even like in a chair, like he's on a bar stool, just like
against that back window.
Against the back, against the window. So people are like walking by, and he's like, my man's sleeping in the window. Good choice.
Everyone's like, are you all right? Are you okay?
Sleeping. And he gets up.
He's just real tired. He works late.
He gets up and he buys the record, daps the band up. You guys killed it. Appreciate you.
That's so funny. That's cool though. So do you guys have any specific plans or goals in mind for Emo Night in the future?
No, I guess we've never really sat down and talked about it. Like, at some point, I feel like at some point it's just going to come to an end. Like either it's like we're just going to get, you know, tired of it or not want to do it anymore, or people are just going to get tired of it. But until now, I think we're just going to ride the wave, you know, and keep doing it until people are like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore.
I like the band's aspect, you know.
Yeah, that's been a good thing too.
Like having bands perform.
Yeah, like that's the thing that I think, I can speak for both of us, makes us the most excited.
Yeah,
is that it's turned into that. And people like bands being, because I've been in a band, you know, bands being stoked to play our night.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they've hit me up and asked me like, "How did you get on that?" I'm not even joking.
Yeah, like that makes me so happy because I mean, you know, being in a band, there would be the nights you're like, "Oh man, if we could play this," and then there's all the ones that people want you to do that you don't actually like. Right. It's not that great for our brand.
Right. Yeah, but no, I think that's important. Honestly, like I don't feel like you guys should ever feel bad about that at all. I get it from like, oh, it sucks that I wish you could. You seem like a nice person and all.
Yeah. And I never try to just send them away empty-handed. Like, hey, you don't fit our bill. I'm always like, hey, you might not work for us, but there's other places that you will work. Yeah. So I'm even like doing the legwork for them. Like, hey, man, I feel bad that I'm turning you away, but here's all these places that I think you might fit better in. Yeah. Here's our contact information, or here's this guy who also throws shows. Maybe he's got a spot, or here's this other venue.
Tampa's got a place for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't, you know, like I'm just trying to be the most helpful.
That is true. Actually.
Yeah, that should be on our little sign.
You're right. Yeah, there is literally a venue for each genre. No, that's awesome. So in terms of, well, actually, let me see because I actually have a list here, and I think I've gone through most of the stuff, and I asked you that one. Well, I guess, so something I didn't ask you guys about earlier, but when you guys were growing up and you said you played music, did you play music yourself?
No.
So what kind of music were you guys listening to that maybe has impacted your life today, for example, at that time, or any music in general that has impacted your life?
I mean, there's like bands who have definitely like, you know, who I'm like ride or die for. Like, unfortunately, this is like I was a big Morrissey fan, like Smiths, Morrissey, whatever. And then the last couple of years, yeah, he's not been the most
fan-worthy.
Yeah, he's like real problematic, and like it's weird because like people are still ride for him. Like, yeah, he still rules. I'm like, does he rule though? Like,
yeah,
well,
because of his like the stuff he said and
just
stuff.
The stuff he's saying, just the way he's like just doing a lot of things that I don't, don't agree with in
right.
my morals and my world outlook.
Right.
To the point where like I have a Morrissey tattoo and I got it covered just because it's like, you know,
you feel that strongly.
Yeah, it's just like, but like I don't know, like the Smiths, like those records are like timeless to me. Like,
right.
Perfect. Like one of the only bands like constantly like it's like their body of work is like close to perfection.
Right.
So it's like a big Smiths fan. Tribe Called Quest was like the band. Like, yeah, I saw when I walked in. That was like the band that made me fall in love with hip hop. Like,
Not canceled.
I was like,
not canceled at all.
No.
Yeah, not canceled.
No, I think they're on the right side of that.
Yeah, Tribe, Bjork, big Bjork fan.
I haven't actually listened to her at all.
So rad.
Yeah.
So great.
Oh, I almost envy you, sir.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like you haven't seen Star Wars or whatever.
Yeah. Well, Tribe was like that for me for a while because I just recently, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, got into them, and I'd been like a huge Outkast, huge Bone Thugs fan. Actually, growing up, I didn't listen to rock music at all. It wasn't until I got to high school that I started listening to the Beatles and classic rock and stuff. But growing up in Miami, I mean, the stuff down there is hip hop. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was listening to 3-6 and all that shit.
Trick.
You know?
It's so cool hearing that because you were like you were in the South, you were listening to the Southern stuff, and then I was kind of Outkast was like they bridged the gap, but in Virginia Beach it was just like New York stuff.
Oh, it was all
because
New
back
York
when I was
stuff.
growing up, we didn't have our own, Neptunes and Timberland hadn't come out yet,
Right.
so everyone there just listened to New York stuff. There's a big back and forth of people living. There's a lot of people from New York in Virginia Beach.
Right. That you saying that moved down there? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, but yeah, as far as hip hop goes, Timbaland tells this story where when he first was making stuff, he just tried to sound like New York because that's what everyone in Virginia Beach did because that's all we listened to.
Right.
And they were like, "Nah, man, you're the South," which as we all know, was the first Southern state. But New York's like, "Oh, you're the South," so they're like, "We want to hear you rep that," and then he came in like "Dirty South," but that wasn't. But he initially was pushing because that wasn't the vibe in Virginia Beach. It really wasn't. Everyone just was into New York stuff. So I was kind of the opposite with the Southern stuff. I started with like Tribe, Old De La, and I mean I'm old. I started with LL Cool J and Run DMC. But as far as like really being like this is my thing, like at a certain age you pick up music that defines, blah blah blah. And I was like, that's when it was like De La, Tribe, blah blah blah.
So you weren't big into rock music then?
Oh, well, that was it.
Talk about it.
Yeah. Came up in like the church, parents involved in the church. So like in the upstate New York days, it wasn't, it was just like all Christian music. You heard whatever you heard on the radio. You had to like sneak stuff. And then got to Virginia Beach when I was 10, and still I went to a private Christian school.
Had a blast.
Yeah. Well, it was like a cool church. It was like
It was like the
It was a
church.
forward. It was like a more forward.
yeah,
church.
it was like non-denominational, and so it was like the school reflected that, and it was a good cross section of kids, and plus the industrial military thing has a lot to do with that. Honestly, people from all over, blah blah blah.
Very diverse, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Blah blah blah. So but yeah, the first stuff I got in was like, man, I love Guns N' Roses, like Skid Row, because I was listening to Christian rock. That was the only like cool music being Christian you could listen to was like Petra.
Nope, I don't
That's
know
the
that.
70s. Like, I don't know what they'd be the equivalent of, like a 70s rock band, like a pretty good 70s, like kind
Really?
of mellow, not like heavy, but like a 70s rock band.
Right.
And then they went into the 80s, and then you get whatever, Christian rock. But
Like Striper.
Striper, yeah.
Yeah, Striper.
It was a little heavy for me. But, and then eventually just like, so that was kind of my reference point. I guess my whole thing is I never like, punk rock was never presented to me in any kind of cool way. So I had bad hair metal. Besides the ones I liked, I had a lot of bad hair metal with really stupid lyrics.
Right.
And then hip hop, like Public Enemy.
What,
I was
a,
like,
what
well,
a combination.
polar
well,
opposite.
who's, more, I felt like I was a smart kid. I was like, well, who's more intelligent? Like Chuck D or, Unskinny Bop? Like
Right.
because those are my choices, which is no affront to rock music, but I wasn't faced with the punk rock cool or, alternative rock music
Right.
choice. And we had grits. That's what they call metalheads in Virginia Beach,
Grits?
which I thought was a universal thing until I was visiting my cousins back here one day. I was like, grits. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, we call
Like the food?
yeah, we call them metalheads
Breakfast?
or burnouts or whatever.
Yeah, Burnouts.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
call them.
But you had grits or, you were into rap. That was like,
That's
that was
funny.
it.
Wow.
Pick a side.
Yeah, for us it was the rockers and the rappers back when I was a kid. That's what it was that bland of a of a designation or whatever. Yeah. Did you grow up here, Theo?
Yeah. I grew up in Temple Terrace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And you were like, I guess early on in when you were a kid, you were listening to strictly rock music?
No, I grew up in like in a Spanish household. So
Oh, word.
my grandparents came from Panama, so it was a lot of like just traditional Panamanian music. But my grandpa was like really into jazz, so it was like we listened, and he's like the radio guy. He was like come home from work, take his uniform off, Bermuda shorts, tank top, sit on the couch, read the paper, drink coffee, and it'd be like he'd have his like portable radio, and we listened to like baseball games. He's a big baseball fan.
What team?
He was from he did some he lived in San Francisco for a while as a
The
teenager.
Giants?
So he was a Giants fan, yeah. So he would like we'd listen to but we'd listen to whatever race baseball was on on the
Right.
radio. So we'd listen to baseball, and then he was like really into like big band jazz. So that's like my love of like jazz music came because like we listen to Miles and Coltrane and Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday and stuff. And then my grandma was like super Frank Sinatra.
Really?
She thought he was like the greatest thing ever. Like we'd Sunday morning get up, do chores, 7:00 in the morning. Like she's got Frank on 10.
Blasting.
You're like,
Yeah.
yo,
That'll
grandma,
get you up in the morning.
cut it out. And she's like yelling at me in Spanish and like do your chores and all day long. Like the TV never really came on until like at night. It was the TV was always off, but the radio was always on. So
It was
it was either like Panamanian music, or it was like Sinatra, or or jazz.
Let me ask you, at the time, did you enjoy that music, or did it take you getting older to go, actually, this stuff was dope?
I think the jazz definitely, like I was into it, but I wasn't like into it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it was like cool, but it's also like you're a kid. Like the last thing you want to do is like hang out with your grandpa.
Right.
Everyone is outside playing baseball or riding their bikes or getting into mischief, and I'm like sitting on the floor reading the paper.
Yeah.
Like, listening to Kind of Blue.
Right.
So at the time it's like, but now I'm like, oh man, it's such a good time, and it's definitely like I'm a baseball nerd, so I definitely feel that's like where my love of baseball came from.
Do you think like when you watch baseball, do you hear jazz in your head?
Sometimes it's funny that you say, because sometimes I watch
That
a
was a good
game.
combo.
Yeah.
Sometimes I watch a game, and I'm like, I can just kind of like hear my grandpa.
Right.
Like he's like, oh, what the fuck, or he'll be like yelling out. He just call me Teddy Boy. Like, Teddy Boy, you see that play? And I'm like, oh, I could like I'll see something, and it just kind of like spark a memory. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's my grandpa.
Did your grandparents speak Spanish?
They did, and so I was born in California, and then I was living in North Dakota.
Okay.
So my mom is from Panama. My dad was from Norway.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it was like all his family had moved from Oslo to North Dakota to be farmers. So in North Dakota, like my mom was probably the only person who spoke Spanish.
Damn. So
there's
you
like
had that mixture.
there's a giant
Holy
military.
fuck.
There's a giant Air Force base. So all her friends were like people who worked on the base, but they would like be in town for like 2 years and they get transferred.
Right.
So her friend group was constantly just rotating.
Changing, right.
Yeah. But it's like I just remember like growing up and like she was the only person that I knew that didn't look like everybody else.
Right.
Like everyone in North Dakota is like, they're Norwegian.
Oh, okay.
So just like pale, pasty, blonde hair, like just a whole gamut. And then my mom is like 5'5", olive skin, dark features. And so I just remember like her always kind of like sticking out. And then and I was like, but I never, no one spoke Spanish.
Right.
She didn't speak Spanish in the household unless she had like a friend who was from, who's like in the military, who's in town. Maybe they're from like New York or they're from, Miami or wherever.
Right.
So she speaks Spanish to them, but it was never to me. And then we moved to Florida and everyone speaks Spanish. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like,
Did you end up learning it at all? Or?
I'm not fluent. I know when she's mad.
Right. You just hear it in her voice.
Like I know when she's like, it's like the chancleta comes off. It's that stare, and like, okay, I did something wrong. Let me recount my steps. What did I do wrong? And then it's just like the finger point, the chancleta the left hand, finger point with the right, and it's just her like da 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 da. I'm like, okay, cool. Like you said, there's a word that I picked up. Okay, so it had to do with my shirt.
Yeah.
My laundry's not put away, or like the laundry's, there's something that I would pick out. And even in high school, I took Spanish, and I was just like, I was not the best student.
Right.
And I was like, oh, my mom's at home, she'll teach me.
Yeah.
And I still to this day, like, I'm not that great.
Yeah, well, I'll just say, just to make you feel better, is that in Miami, there's such a large portion of people, like kids, that their parents are from Cuba or whatever, and they barely speak Spanish. Like, I was one of those kids. Like, I understand it really well, and it's taken me till being an adult to actually be able to speak it better. But when I was younger, I sounded horrible. I could barely speak. I could understand most of it, but in terms of speaking it back, no, it was.
Yeah,
it
that's
was
like
garbage.
one thing I regret, like growing up, is like my grandma would always try to teach me, and she's like, "Well, back in Panama," I was like, "We're not in Panama.
Yeah.
We're in Tampa, lady."
Yeah, you never. That's the thing as you're a kid. You just never appreciate.
You're just dumb.
You're just
dumb.
like, no, I don't want to do that.
sure.
You're telling me I should do
the
this?
last thing I want to
Don't
do on Saturday afternoon is like conjugate verbs.
Yeah.
Like all my friends are outside.
Gets everyone's a conjugation.
Yeah, everyone's outside playing football, and like she's trying to teach me how to say juice in Spanish. I'm like, no, I just want to go outside.
Yeah.
I'm 10. I just want to be a kid. And she's like, one day, like I'll never. She's like, one day you're gonna wish you learned. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. And then I'm like, fuck.
Have you checked out any like music in Spanish today, or whatever that has come out?
Yeah, I mean, so like, other than even we DJ out elsewhere.
Kind of random.
Yeah, random spots.
Wherever we're wanted.
Yeah, people are like, oh, hey, we were doing like armature on Saturday nights for a while, in the food hall. But yeah, like my love of Bad Bunny right now is like,
dude,
Hell
when
yeah.
we were in New York, all us fellas, we just had this whole like Bad Bunny love fest.
We watched it's been like an hour watching like Bad Bunny videos on YouTube.
His videos, and then his wrestling highlights, and then but people at Armature want to hear that.
That's cool.
And then and
even
at some
like
point we're like,
J
we want to
Balvin.
play it
Yeah.
for you. Yeah, like this is great.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my so I have a shitload of family in Puerto Rico, and my cousin, he was like a huge Bad Bunny fan, like I guess you could call him the hipster of Puerto Rico, because he knew about him like before he blew up or whatever.
He was a pitchfork of
Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah. He was showing me his stuff years and years ago. He's like, this guy's the best. And he had like a ton of music out already at that time too, which is crazy. And he was like trying to put me onto him. I'll be honest, I never really checked it out, but from what I've heard is like, this guy's doing a very unique thing. He's not just doing
they've taken that kind of rough sound and made it very accessible in a good way.
Right.
It's one of those things we were talking about music, being young and opinions and stuff as DJs and getting older, but especially as DJs, like you learn to appreciate stuff you would have hated on.
Yep.
As
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Just
Definitely.
like, this is so well produced.
Yeah.
And then people like it. That's another thing is like, when the chips are down and like maybe you played something people don't like. And now you need a song that people definitely are going to like. You start to appreciate those songs.
Do you guys get, does your heart sink? Like, I don't know how
sure.
often this has happened where you guys are playing something and you can just tell people are not enjoying it at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, especially if there's a dance floor, but in extreme situations, even if there's not a dance floor.
Yeah. There's been definitely times where I'm like, I'll tell him like, we always text each other like, oh, I found this band or this song that's so tight, and there's something I'll get like super hyped on. I'm like, yeah, so rad, and then I'll play it out, and people are just like, just not. I'm like, no, this is so great. Just listen to it. And they're like, no, I don't want to. This sucks. And I'm like, oh, cool. Fuck you then.
Do you play the whole song through?
Oh,
or you
yeah,
just-
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But there's been definitely times where like I'll lose a crowd and then I start panicking and I'm like, okay, I can't lose them entirely. Like I'll scratch out of it and play like the, a club banger and get one back in.
That's
I'm like,
so interesting. That's like, so that's one thing that I feel like is not. That's almost like you guys are on par with comedians. Where a comedian, well, they'll go through their bit, I'm sure, but I'm sure there's comedians that will go, you know what? Let me just kind of switch off the subject and go to a different.
They'll do something experimental and it's not working. They'll have that.
Yeah,
anchor
they'll
joke.
know like, okay, I got this joke that'll
Yeah.
rope them right back in. Like,
Well, Chris Rock was a DJ before he was. a comedian.
was he? Okay.
Yeah, and he said that's where he learned timing from.
Oh, that makes sense. I feel like as a band, we can't like. There's no.
you can't
there-
stop
you-
it. Like, oh, people aren't into this.
Yeah,
Let's do a different one.
It would be like, well, I think the only comparable thing would be if we're at a place like, let's say the Hub or whatever, and we have a song in the set that's slower, and we're like, no, we can't do that to these people.
Right,
now.
you have to do it before.
We have to
Yeah.
switch.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to do a little.
And then
audible.
hopefully you know enough songs that you can do a different one instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
mean,
like your
it's-
third show or something.
There's been times at Emo Night where I've been playing a song and then someone will come up and start talking to me and I'm just like bullshitting and then like the song ends and I start panicking and then I'll just like throw a song on and it's like super slow and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I'm sorry guys, like I panicked, I wasn't paying attention, it's my bad, like I'll take this L and then I'll like play it and then I'll find that like a break and I'll just loop the break and then I'll like I'll put something else in that's like kind of like takes it off. But there's like, there's been so many times where I'm like just talking to somebody, like someone comes up and like daps me up and they start talking about like, oh hey, how's this, how's
Yeah,
work.
We see our friends there.
Yeah.
It'll be very distracting.
Friends come out, regulars come out, people come up like, hey, I've never been here, I'm having a great time. People ask for requests and you start talking about stuff and then next thing you know, like there's been dead air and then I look up and it was like looking at me like, oh my god, and I throw something on. Yeah, so it's like there's been definitely times where you just kind of like lose track and then you play a slow banger and everyone's just like, what are you doing, man? It's like 12:30, people are amped.
Yeah.
And you're playing this sad song.
Or it'll be a request for that song. You're like, you know what? You're a really cool person, and I like this song a lot.
Oh, dude,
You're
that
right, and
person
it'll be a
probably
brick.
feels even worse than you guys
They
do.
do. That's the thing. That's
Yeah.
why you're like, you don't want me to do this.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the guy that ruins the party.
Yeah,
That's
or
very,
I-
that's
or I
very
try
true.
to tell them like, hey, it's a great song. How about this?
Yeah.
Pick someone from that band that's in that catalog, but maybe it's a little more. I was like, people are dancing right now.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah. Then you kind of explain it to them like, hey, I'll play it. It's probably gonna kill the vibe, but I'll play it. Like you're
Yeah.
here, like I'll do it for you.
You'll explain that to them.
Yeah. But I'm like,
That's so funny.
I'm like, it's probably gonna like maybe bring it down a little bit. Is there something else that you'd want to hear? And like, oh yeah, play the Say Anything song. Is like, all right, cool. Like,
Much better choice.
yeah, much better choice. But if it's like pre-12, I'm like, I don't care. I'll play whatever.
Right.
But I feel like 11:30, 12 is like when the party starts. Like, I don't know if you noticed, like Tampa's like a very like late to the party crowd.
Yeah.
Like doors are at 10, people start showing up at 11:15.
Yeah.
Like no one wants to be the first guy.
Right.
But you don't want to be the last guy. So it's like this like pocket where everyone between 11:15 and 12, people start showing up. I mean, even like when I go out, it's like I don't leave the house until like 10:45, 11.
Yeah, Tampa's definitely more on Miami time than
Yeah.
any other place besides New York, obviously. But like than other places I've been to, and I'll say Miami is more. People definitely show up a lot later.
Oh, for sure.
But it's people do show up. Like our time slot at 11:30. I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like perfect time slot.
Yeah, and that's when I booked the shows, I'm like, hey, the people are like, what time am I going? We used to do one band at night. I was like for the longest time, it was one band, and I'm like, you went at midnight, and I'm like, oh man, and you could hear him like kind of bummed. I'm like, listen, if I put you on at 10, no one's gonna be there.
Right.
I put you on at 11, nobody's gonna be there. If I put you on 11:30, people might be there, but also you're done at 12:15, everyone's gonna leave.
Right.
Like, you'll be stuck here. Your friends will be here, but no one else is gonna be here.
Right. Right.
And I was like, the party's 5 hours or 2.5, 4.5 hours. Like 12 is like the sweet spot. And I was like, this is when you're gonna get the most eyes on you. And then like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that there's probably bands that are concerned. They're just like, well, no, that's crazy. Like there won't be anyone there when if we go at 11:30 or
and
whatever.
I'm like, we had one of our earliest shows. Someone was like, hey, can we go in at 10? And I was like, doors are at 10. Like doors,
the show starts.
starts at 10.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, but like someone had like work really early in the morning, and I was like, listen, if you guys want to go on at 10, we'll put you on at 10. But I'm gonna let you know nobody's gonna be here.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be me and Chris, the two bartenders, and you three.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they're like, are you sure? I was like, I'm not lying to you. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like a vendetta.
You've done this for you've done this long enough to know.
But I was like, if you want to go in at 10, like, no one's going to be here. No one's going to buy your merch. These are like, and then like, then a guy wrote back and I was like, if you want, we can reschedule you a different night. And he's like, no, we'll do it. We'll do it. And then, and the night they're like, yeah, it's really, that worked. And I was like, yeah,
thank you.
not my first rodeo.
Yeah.
But I get it. Like, we always want to be accommodating to the band. Like, you can't play, like, you know, we'll switch schedules. We'll see if someone else wants to fill in, move to a different date. And like I said, we've always been pretty lucky. Like, no pushback. Everyone's like super great, super positive. So
yeah, it seems like it so far too. Like I feel like you guys have something real special. Like, it's
Thanks,
dope.
man.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's dope
appreciate
as
it.
fuck. So again, like I was so stoked to play, and when you said such nice things, like, oh yeah, because I noticed you guys are like our shit, and I'm like, they must know that we're, you know, that we do something, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm on my phone probably way too much than I should be, but it's also like I'm always like looking at bands and like looking at, you know, if someone posts like a show bill, it's like 4 bands, I'll go check out every band on the bill.
Oh shit!
And then I listen to their stuff, and I go to their Bandcamp, their Spotify, and then I'll text him like, "Hey, this band, we should, you know."
Right.
That's what I found. Youth Antics. They had somehow popped up on on my radar, and then I was like, "All right," back my mind, and we started following them or whatever. And then we were doing for the radio show. We always try to play like 2 to 3 local bands every episode.
Right.
And I was like, so I have like a checklist. I'm like, all right, we played this band already. We played this band, and then it's like kind of slowly going down. It's like, oh, these guys. And they just play that single, so I was like, "Oh, hey," would play the single, and then I tagged them. Like, I always like try to do like a pre-post, like, "Hey, you know, listen to the show tonight. We're gonna play XYZ bands tonight. You know, new stuff from whatever." And the guy wrote back, and he was just like, "Wait, you're playing my stuff on the radio?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because it's good." And it's like, "It's good." And he's like, "Oh my god, we've never had it stuff on the radio." I was like, "Yeah, you know, here, listen to us. You know, we go on at midnight. I can't tell you exactly what time we're gonna get played until like half an hour before the show."
Right.
But yeah, it's a 2-hour show. You can stream it. Like, I give them all the information. Like, hey, stream it. You know, I have a friend who doesn't stay up that late, but every morning she gets up at like 6 a.m. for work, whatever, and then she'll text me at like 8:30, and she's like, "I listened to the show, so great. You giggled a lot in this episode." I'm like, "Thanks."
It's a bit of a giggler.
Yeah, I was
That's
giggle.
awesome. So we're reaching the time here, but
Yeah.
I want to say thank you guys so much for coming on and talking.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are obviously going today to do your station, which is fucking cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is coming out later, but you guys had already said the schedule for the radio station. But yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this. And
Thanks for having us.
yeah, we'll definitely be out at some more emo nights.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
yeah.
Have a good one.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.